Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be your moderator for today's webinar organized by Funds for NGOs. Today's topic is how NGOs can use video to effectively entice and engage donors. I am Anutma and I'm here to facilitate this session. First of all, I want to thank each one of you for taking out time from your busy schedules. Please note that this webinar will run for 60 minutes, which includes 45 minutes of presentation, followed by a 15 minutes of Q&A session. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A option on your webinar screen to post your question, and we will respond to them during the Q&A session. Webinar objectives. The first objective is to learn how to tell a compelling story, be better equipped to develop strategies to engage different audiences, be better understand how to maximize reach, gain skills and greater clarity on how to structure video content, learn how to convey key messages, and gain an insight into how to reach different audiences and the use of different social media platforms. Please note that the webinar is being recorded and the recording will be made available in the video section of Funds for NGOs premium website. And now allow me to introduce today's trainer, Cheryl Hooper. Cheryl is an experienced development consultant and CEO of an international charity. She is an expert trainer and has provided training and capacity building to support international NGOs for more than 20 years. Cheryl has a BA Honors degree in Sociology and Master's degree in International Cooperation and Humanitarian Aid. She has successfully developed numerous award-winning programs and secured funding from USAID, UKAID, Comic Relief, and several high-profile grant-making trusts and foundations with a combined value in excess of $5 million. She has been on the judging panel for the prestigious UK Charity Times Awards for the past 3 years and a published author of a guide for NGOs in youth-led peer education, and was conferred a Women of the Decade Award by the Women's Economic Forum in October 2023. Now, I kindly request Cheryl to lead the session and share screen.
Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today. I really appreciate your following and your participation. We can't ignore that we're in the digital age. And if NGOs are to keep abreast of new trends and methods to enhance fundraising, then we shouldn't ignore the use of video as a way to engage new and potential supporters, as well as keeping donors who already know our work loyal to our cause. And for those NGOs who work internationally, it's even more difficult to get donors to understand the problems your NGO is trying to resolve, and also the difference that you are making because of the distance and the cultural differences that often exist. Of course, the way to do this is to use video to create emotional connections, showcase impact, and build trust. So today, I want to help you think about how you might use video strategically and as part of a fundraising strategy to enhance donor engagement and support. Making a video to promote and explain your work to donors doesn't have to fall into the hands of high-cost professionals. Today, I want to show you how a small or a medium NGO with few resources or technical skills can still produce video content that will enhance your fundraising and prospects of securing donations. So today, by the end of this training, I hope that you'll be better equipped to learn how to tell a compelling story using video. You will understand how to develop strategies to engage different audiences, and you'll better understand how to maximize that reach, how you can maximize the opportunities to reach as many people as possible. You should gain skills and a greater insight on how to structure video content, how to convey key messages, and also how to reach different audiences using different social media platforms. So the first thing about using video is that it's a fantastic way to tell a compelling story that will immediately attract interest and empathy from potential supporters. People are most likely to willingly donate if they can see for themselves the environment where you operate and hear directly from beneficiaries about their lives before and after your NGO has helped them. The way to keep the story authentic is to make sure that beneficiaries are the centre of the story. We all know that NGOs often do many different activities that are implemented because of the many different issues that you're dealing with. But when creating a story, try not to cover too many things because it can dilute the issue and the impact that you're making and the message. So think about just one aspect of your work that would make a good story and focus on that to start with. So, for example, if you're an NGO involved in wash projects, so water, sanitation, hygiene, for example, the story would just focus on how to access clean water. And this example is how a family can access clean water and how this has changed a family's life, rather than focusing on any other aspect of work you're doing or trying to cover every aspect of work that you're doing. So what you should do is, with video, what you should aim to do is to emphasize the results and the impact of your work and not just what you do. So use video footage to show the change you're making. If you don't have footage of the environment or evidence of what things were like before you started operating, it's possible to use photos and footage from the internet to demonstrate what things were like and then film what it's like now. And things like testimonials can be either with people saying things directly to camera, so you can go into your communities and ask people, or you can use quotes in text and put that on top of the footage that you've taken yourself. So one of the most effective ways to engage donors and new supporters is to build trust and show viewers that you're really making a difference. If you're a founder of an NGO, then you're in a perfect position to explain why you started the NGO, what drives you to make a difference. Even showing your office and working environment demonstrates that what you do is real and not made up. Walking through the village, going into the community, speaking to beneficiaries are all things that, whilst you may take this for granted, other people will find fascinating and are likely to want to know more. But what you really need to also know is what money can buy and how much things cost, so that you can make it clear using visuals. So, for example, if you show a young child walking to school, You can explain the distance the child walks each day and what the environment is like, and then say, for example, if you want to help a child like Mary, a pair of shoes costs $10 and will help her to continue to go to school for a whole year. As you show more visuals, you can explain the cost of a meal, which may be her only meal of the day, or the cost of a uniform, and so on. So all these things are a clear call to action and ask the viewer to do something without you actually making them feel guilty about it. You're just putting the facts out there and letting them see it for themselves. So these days, I'm sure you're all aware of the impact and influence of social media and the different platforms that are used on a daily basis. So different audiences and age groups use different types of social media platforms. And so it's important that you tailor any video in content and in length according to the different social media platforms. So Facebook typically attracts older groups, as does YouTube, but TikTok is typically a younger audience, and LinkedIn attracts professionals. So think about the type of content that would be appropriate and reflect the different platforms and the audiences that look at those platforms. And if you make just one video, then think about how you might edit that video to suit the different audiences and message you want to get across. So another way to use video is to engage with your donors and film them with short pieces explaining why they support you. Often people give to people. So, they follow if they see someone else giving, then they might follow that pattern. So it's always good if you can get one of your supporters to say something on your behalf. This kind of footage can be cut and edited to include your projects and beneficiaries, statistics and data, and thanks and acknowledgements to the people who support you. As I said, people are often influenced by others, and if you can capture supporters who are willing to endorse your work and say, this is why I support this NGO, then this is a way to influence new supporters whilst thanking and appreciating existing ones. So social media loves a good story, and people are drawn to content that shows reality, both the good and the bad, the disasters and the successes, the struggles and the achievements. Implementing the start of a project is a good time to capture the work that goes on when developing a new project and the challenges that sometimes need to be overcome to get going. So you could do this while you have meetings, while you go out into the field. These can be anything from logistical challenges to funding challenges or even implementation challenges. But show not only the challenge, but how you overcome the difficulties and how things are now progressing and moving well. So what you could do just in the daily course of your work is just use a mobile phone and capture some footage here and there and just keep it, because at some point it will be useful to you. And then periodically throughout the project, it's good to capture more progress and document this into short 15 or 20-second videos that give a feel and taste of the work that you do. So all these things can build trust and supporter engagement. So remember that when you use video, you are appealing to people who most probably have no real understanding of community development or the social issues that you're really facing. They may not know anything about the sustainable development goals. They may not have travelled outside their country very much. So the strategy to appeal to a wide audience must be as inclusive as possible. This means that the language you use should be simple and without jargon. The story and the message should be clear. You could use subtitles for a global audience. And with platforms like Facebook, for example, it's possible to actually buy Facebook adverts and designate a small budget. So with Facebook, you can set a very small budget. There's no minimum budget. You could set a budget of $20, for example. But before you do this, what you have to do is you then identify the type and the profile and the geographical area that you want those adverts to go to. So what happens is Facebook then use a sort of an algorithm when people are searching on Facebook and they're showing an interest in a particular country or particular issues or anything like that, your advert pops up. But that is something that, as I said, you need to be very clear on the type of audience that you want to reach. So it's perfectly possible to create compelling content and video footage using a good smartphone. The quality and the sound can be really effective and professional. But if you prefer to use a professional or an interested volunteer, then make sure that you provide a clear brief and explain exactly what you want by way of content. Now, later on at the end of this training session, I will show you a short video that I shot myself just using a smartphone to just demonstrate what you can actually do to create something without any real technical skills. So video is a very powerful tool for fundraising, which is most often overlooked and underrated, especially by small or recently formed NGOs. So if possible, start to think about using videos in all your internal and external communications, as well as photos. And if you have specific high-level donors, then personalised videos are a really effective way to engage them and help them to stay loyal. So I'm going to show you an example of a structure and a script to show you how you can actually create a very simple story. So good stories captured using video need structure and what we call a storyboard. So before you begin filming of any kind, think about the story you want to create and the key message that you want to convey from that story. And then just write down a simple storyline which would form the basis of what you need to film. And as said before, all of this can be done using a good quality smartphone and a bit of creative thinking. So in this story, the key message that we want to get across is the real life situation of a family living without electricity and the hardship they endure. So the second message is the difference that the NGO has made by enabling the family to have solar power. So by filming in the family home, the situation is brought to life, it's authentic, and it's engaging because the viewer feels that he or she has an intimate view of a real home. So by doing this, they should already be getting a sense of responsibility to try and help. But it's also important to show the viewer the actual work that the NGO does to make this happen. Solar power doesn't magically appear in Mary's house. So demonstrate the installation, the challenges to access anything else that might need to have been done to make it happen. And then finally, what is the impact and the change that has taken place because of the intervention? So you could think about how you might show this. It could be a family member saying something. It could be visuals showing children studying. What message do you want to convey? You'll see here that the message is simple. A solar-powered solar-powered light has helped the family to cook and provide a way for children to learn and be educated. And then finally, a call to action that explains how much solar light costs, how to donate, and what a life-changing difference it's made. So whilst the story is simple, it's very personal, and it's possible to get a lot of information across in less than 1 minute. So let's break down the messages and how they were conveyed. So by telling the story, you are creating a sense of connection with the person who is watching that video. You're humanizing the cause because you're using the beneficiary's voice and visuals. You're filming Mary and her family. It's a real life situation, and it's enabling a possible donor to look inside somebody's house and their life. The visuals capture the situation. So this demonstrates the tangible impact. It shows the before and the after. Thanks, and explains to the donor that it's because of their support. So using simple language, make sure that whoever watches it can understand it very simply. You don't need development jargon. You don't need to be talking about the Sustainable Development Goals. It's very easy to see the work that you're doing. And then the call to action, where you are explaining how much things cost and how to donate if they want. And the whole thing is really about being authentic. And by being authentic, it's building trust. It's showing that donor that you are really going into real life, changing real lives. So just a few tips to think about when you get going and try filming for the first time. The best thing is to keep all videos a maximum of 3 minutes. Ideally less than 3 minutes, but in some cases 3 minutes would be okay. So use, if you want to, depending on your audience, you may want to use local language with English subtitles. So if you are filming a beneficiary and they are speaking in their local language, then you can put subtitles there according to the audience. It's always good to capture that ambient sound. So, you know, the sound of children laughing or playing, or the background sound of the community, which really kind of brings the video to life rather than blocking out that sound with music. I mean, you can do both, but it's good to have that ambient sound. Obviously, include your logo subtly in your video content, and just record in natural light. So don't bother taking lights with you and expensive equipment or anything like that. You want to make it as raw and as humanized as possible. So once you have a video that you're happy with, make sure that you use the best platform available to showcase it and reach potential donors where they actively browse. So YouTube is one of the most used platforms globally, and its use actually surpasses normal TV and radio. So this platform is the best one to use if you are having a longer video, longer storytelling, and should be used to convey impact stories and documentaries about your projects. You can also add captions to the visuals and strong descriptions to encourage people to view. So Facebook typically attracts older audiences, and it's a good platform to host short videos, possibly up to about 1 minute long. It's a platform where people can easily share content and reach more people, and it's something that you can also use paid advertising targeted to specific groups, but on a very small budget. So you could actually put a very small budget together and test it and sort of see. And with those Facebook ads, it's possible to then look at you can find out the analytics quite easily and see how many people have clicked through or how many people have the video has been sent to on their feed. So Instagram is also an effective social media platform that has huge engagement and appeals to a wide age range. So the stories here need to be short, visually compelling, and the message should be simple and straightforward. So here it's possible to record sound, but you could also use subtitles that give the key messages and a link to donate. But LinkedIn is a very different type of engagement. So whatever you post on LinkedIn, because it's a professional platform, whatever you post on LinkedIn should reflect the knowledge and capability of your NGO. So this is the type of platform that should position your NGO as knowledgeable, trustworthy, and impactful. Remember, you get a lot of potential donors on LinkedIn. You've got a lot of businesses, companies, trusts and foundations are all on LinkedIn. So it's something that if you're a newly formed NGO, it's a way to build credibility. But this would need a different type of story and content to that where you would be appealing to attract new financial support. So you would have to really think about the type of content that would be appropriate for LinkedIn. Now, I did a training webinar on developing individual donors a few weeks ago, and I spoke about digital email communication as a way to engage new supporters whilst retaining the loyalty of existing supporters. So if you're able to embed video into your donor updates or newsletters, this will enhance your communication and engagement with your supporters. So this is the kind of short content that only needs to be about 20 seconds or so, and something that has a simple message and a thank you as part of it. And of course, every NGO, regardless of how new or established you are, should have a dedicated website because it's the first thing that people will turn to. So this is an ideal opportunity to put your NGO story on your landing page, as well as other impact stories. And if you have groups that are part of a membership, for example, alumni who've been supported through school, for example, by your NGO, or groups of supporters or other service users, it's possible to send short video updates through WhatsApp, but you should really consider this carefully because some people don't want to get clogged down with lots of content on their phones on WhatsApp. But obviously, increasingly, people are using WhatsApp as their main communications channel. So it is possible for you to even reach audiences using WhatsApp. And then, of course, one of the most trending platforms is TikTok, which typically attracts a younger age group. But it will eventually draw in older, more mature adults who, like YouTube, will begin to use this more frequently. And it's been seen the same with Instagram. So where Instagram was originally attracting a younger audience, now greater numbers of more mature users are going on to Instagram. And so it's only a matter of time before older, more mature people are going to start turning to TikTok. And so this is something that is definitely worth considering, and not thinking, well, it's not our audience. So just some tips to really maximize your reach. So the first thing I mentioned earlier is to repurpose your videos. So what you can do is you can take a video that you have created, and then you can repurpose it and cut it or edit it into shorter versions, which you can then use for Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok, and things like that. Now, one of the things is you might be thinking, well, how do I do that? Where do I do that? I use a platform called Canva, and most of you, I would imagine, are familiar with Canva. If you aren't familiar with it, then you should definitely take a look at it. It's canva.com. And Canva has got ready-made templates that you can use for Instagram, TikTok, and things like that. So you can literally go on there and just drop in your video footage and put in the content that you want. So another way to maximize your reach is to find influencers. So people who are gaining big followings on Instagram or TikTok or the other platforms, YouTube. Make an approach to them and ask if they would be willing to share your content or to endorse what you're doing. So of course what you need to do is to find people who are working in the same field that you're working in. Paid promotions, that's where I've mentioned again, if you wanted to, you could try paying for a series of adverts on Facebook and just have a look and see whether that's increasing your engagement. And then obviously, if you do that, whatever you do, it's important to track the performance of the platforms that you're engaging in. So, check on the analytics. How many people have clicked through? How many people have opened up your video? And then, as I said, embed videos in if you have an opportunity to send a donor a short video in grant proposals or crowdfunding, or even just an existing donor, just as an update of your work. So I've actually done that with some of foundations that have supported various projects, and even they haven't asked for it. We haven't asked them to donate anything. We've just literally sent it as a thank you to show them the impact of the work. And that kind of thing has gone down really well. So what I'm going to do now is to show you a video that I actually did myself. I would say I am not a content creator. I am not a technical person who does videos ordinarily. All the footage was shot on my mobile phone, and basically this video was shown at an event at Christmas last year, and it was shown to highlight the work of the NGO that I was working for, but it was also to try and demonstrate the impact of the work. And it was, as you can imagine, if you're an NGO doing lots of different projects, then to try and get a message across simply to an audience where I would say 100% of that audience had not been to a developing country. I would say probably 80% of them didn't really understand about development issues. They were the ticket prices for the event were donated to the cause. But the majority of people turning up really didn't understand. What they wanted to do was to support a charity, feel that they were making a difference, but also having a nice evening. So I'm going to talk you through this to show you what you can do. And it's just a short 2-minute video. So what we wanted to do was to really, so if I just start this. So what we wanted to do to begin with was to really show the audience the distances that the NGO is travelling, and the remoteness of some of the communities that were being supported. And so the first part of the video is to really try and establish the context of the work and explain very simply some of the challenges that take place. So this again was just a footage to show the context and the country. But then to also demonstrate some of the simple logistical challenges of visiting some of the communities where we were working. But then we also wanted to demonstrate that we don't just work in rural areas, but also in urban areas too. And to show the type of things that are going on in these places. So this part of the video then moves on to how the NGO is working and what the NGO is doing. And then we were explaining why. And now the impact. So we were showing just using photos. Without much explanation, the photos speak for themselves. So it's the before and the after. And then the impact of the NGO after that time. And then basically a thank you to everybody, but then to leave things on a positive note. Just something like that. Now, that was a very simple video that was just literally done using Canva. That was just a very simple way of demonstrating the impact and the work of an NGO. And that was just literally shot in the field using a smartphone and then put together using Canva. And so, and Canva is a platform that you can use for free. It does have a paid side to it, but that was all done on the free side of Canva. So I hope that's brought me to the end of this training session. I hope that's given you an insight into how you might use video in future. And I would be very happy to take any questions you may have. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl, for your presentation. Participants, now we are taking a Q&A session. You can send in your questions. The first question is, what's good starting point for NGO that are new to video? Should we begin with short media clips or longer storytelling pieces?
Yeah, I think that's a really good, I think it's a really good question. I think what I would do is, well, first of all, make sure you've got a phone that you can capture video on. Okay, so make sure you've got a smartphone, and then there are, as I said, as a newly formed NGO, what you are really lacking in, or what you really need to do, is to build trust, because you won't have a track record. So the way to do that is, if you have members of the community who are well respected, or if you have members of your management committee who are well known or well respected in the community, or professionals, say you're a health charity and you have doctors on your board, use testimonials and endorsements. So film some of those people out in the community just saying why they support your NGO or why they got involved in your NGO. So, and then also you could film some of your beneficiaries, some of the shots around the community, but then the beneficiaries talking and saying why they are happy that you are supporting them. And then when you've got that footage, then you can start thinking about the story that you want to convey. So I would say go short, do short clips, but when you're filming, you can always film longer pieces and then just cut them down. So it's better to have more and then cut down than not to have enough. So that's what I would say.
Thank you for your input, Cheryl. The next question is, how do you go about obtaining consent to record a video, especially with children? How do you manage consent?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. I think that if you're filming children, it depends on what you're doing. If you're going into a school, then of course what you need to do is get permission from the school. So you would need to just, and you don't, if you're doing a field visit, and you're going into a school, you don't have to sort of spend ages in advance contacting the school and this and that. The chances are, if you meet the head teacher and you say, is it possible for us to just take a few clips of the classrooms or children while they're learning? We won't feature anyone in particular, and it's just a sort of pan around the classroom or something like that. The head teacher should give you permission, and if they have forms that you need to fill in, then fill in the necessary forms. If you're filming in the community, what you can do is you can take forms with you. So if you're talking directly to somebody and you're filming them, then it's good to ask their permission if they would mind. If you don't speak their language, then you would have somebody local interpreting for you and saying, would they mind talking to them? But generally, it's better, I find, to not really take that kind of footage. You don't want to make it formal, where people are beginning to get nervous, or video becomes intrusive. The kind of thing I do is just more general shots, like the kind of thing you saw in that video. They're just shots on the road, they're walking through the community. If I'm in a school, it might be children playing, but no one in particular, and no one is identified. So no one is identified, the school isn't identified. It would be impossible to know where those shots were taken. But always have, depending on what you're taking and what footage you want, you must be mindful of whether you need to take permission or not, and then get the relevant authorities to give you that permission.
Thank you, Cheryl, for your input. The next question is, can you suggest some AI paid tools to create video more effectively?
Yeah, well, as I said, I mean, for me, my go-to is Canva. So what I do is I go to Canva, and it's quite incredible because I was using it yesterday, actually. And for the first time, I realized that Canva also has an AI voiceover. And it's quite incredible. So you put some footage in, and then you type, there's an icon, and it will just say AI voice. And then you'll have 4 or 5 different people's voices. So you can choose whether you want a man or an older man, a younger man, a woman. You can choose the voice you want, and then you type in the text, and then you just literally press the button, and the AI will say it, and it will go onto your video. So it's one of those things that it's trial and error. So I would say anybody who has never done it before and who's new to it, I would say just try it out, because the more you do it, the easier it gets. And it's really quite intuitive. It's very easy to understand. You don't need any technical knowledge, not really.
Thank you, Cheryl, for your input. The next question is, how to add a donate button without being intrusive, how to do it for the different platforms, how to link it to our donate page but keep it simple.
Yeah, I mean, I can't give you that technical information, I'm afraid. I'm pretty sure that with Instagram, there is a way to add a link to your website. And I think also the same for Facebook. But the actual technical side of how you do that, I'm not qualified to give you that advice, really. But what you could do is, if you're showing a video to an audience, for example, then what you can do is at the end of that video, so the final slide would be, if you would like to support us, please visit us at, and you can put your website address, or you can call us on, and then there'll be a mobile number or something like that. So you can put the call to action on the video slide and just keep the slide static for 30 seconds, or I don't know, 10 seconds or something, enough for people to make a note of it, and then they can donate that way.
Thank you, Cheryl. The next question is, how often should NGOs post videos to keep donors engaged without overwhelming them?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I would say, I mean, in my experience, it's really good that you don't want to overload donors. I would say kind of a very brief kind of update every couple of months, every sort of eight weeks or so. You send an update to your supporters saying hello, and you could literally just have 10 seconds in that update just saying, this is where your funds have supported this family or this community, and you can literally just have a sort of shot of the community. You could have a before and an after, a little bit like I showed you, and thank you very much, and that's it. So I would say probably every couple of months, no more than that. You shouldn't really need to do it any more than that.
Thank you, Cheryl. The next question is, what key metrics should NGOs track to know if their videos are actually influencing donor decisions?
Well, I mean, I think as far as I know, all these platforms, when you set them up, and you can go into the analytics, so they will tell you how many hits you've had, or how many times people have opened it, or what the engagement is. So I think with your website, if you have a website, then you should be able to find out quite simply how many people have viewed your website, whether they came from a mobile phone, whether it's a desktop, what pages they've landed on. All that information should be available to you through your website. And then I think with the different platforms that you use, there's also, when you go into your profile, I think you'll probably find that you can look at those analytics quite easily there as well.
Thank you, Cheryl. The next question is, what type of videos do donors usually respond to the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. I think the stories are the thing that captures donors. It's the real stories. People like they like sort of hearing about other lives, in much the same way as people watch dramas on TV, or go to the movies and watch a film. Those things are engaging you because people are interested in other people's lives, and those lives are fantasy. But people are also interested in reality. That's why there's so many reality shows all over the world now. So there are so many reality shows about people, and that's what engages donors. So the more you can tell personal stories and make your content and your stories real and authentic, the better. And I think that would be the best way of engaging donors.
Thank you, Cheryl, for your input. The next question is it better to post videos on social media or send them directly to donors?
Well, it depends on, I mean, I think if you're able to do both, then you should do both. Sometimes, some NGOs, they don't have, it's difficult because you really, in this day and age, you have to have a social media presence. But there are many, because of the nature of the type of people who support NGOs, because a lot of them are typically older, they don't necessarily look at social media that much. But at the same time, you do need to have it. So I would do both. I would post on social media if you can do it, get a volunteer if you don't have somebody within your team to do it. Usually somebody who is young and who uses social media all the time, and see if they would be willing to volunteer for you. And then updates to your funders or to your donors, but without an ask. So don't ask for money. It's just updating them, because that's the way of building the trust and building the loyalty.
Thank you, Cheryl, for your input. Dear participants, due to time limitations, we cannot cover all the questions posted here. As now we have reached the end of the webinar, I want to thank each one of you for your active participation. And we would also like to thank you, Cheryl, on behalf of entire team and participants. Participants, please take a moment to fill out the feedback form for today's session. Your input is crucial in helping us to improve. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to contact us at support@fundsforngos.org. The feedback form will appear on your screen in a moment. Once again, thank you to all participants, and we look forward to seeing you in our next webinar.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.